So now we are going to look at the broken access control issue. And access control refers usually to roles inside of an application, not so much to just the logging and log out, because that's usually covered by authentication. So access control is closer in terminology to what's also known as authorization. And the issue is we want to make sure that only certain users are able to do certain things. And if we let everyone do everything, then it makes it harder to build an application where there's specialized functionality, like suppose a teaching application where there's a teacher and a student. If everybody can see everything, then students can see the solutions ahead of time. It's harder to do quizzes. And just think of anything like you need to have certain people be the approvers of certain workflows. There are so many cases in the business world and just in general where you need to have different roles for different people or users in particular applications. And so that's why it's important for it to work. And if we look at our login structure and our user creation structure over in the application we've been using, so you'll see that there is no checkbox for doing admin stuff. So let's go in and add one. And we will find that in the users. And then we go over to new. New is using form. So that's how we get there. And then here, we'll see that if we just create a new div, we can have a new set of fields, a label and a field. And that's going to be for admin. And we're just going to have a checkbox. We don't need to have a lot going on for this. We just need to have form.label, an issue there. And then we'll call it admin. And see, it's not being cooperative, but we will do form.checkbox, and that is going to be admin as well. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so there it is. And then the interesting thing is how it looks under the covers, of course. So you'll see it's user admin and the default value is 0. And that's how Rails knows that even if it's not checked, because in HTML, I don't know if you know this, but it does not send the value for a checkbox unless it's checked. So in Rails, one of the nice things that they've added is it always sends a value. It sends a 0 or a 1, depending on what the check state is of the checkbox. So here we go. We're going to create a user who is not an admin, and let's name him not admin. And if we go to the log output, we'll see that they were created with admin being 0. So the param sent in 0 for admin. And now we're going to create another user, and that user is going to be an admin. And here we go, admin true. And if we look at the log, you'll see that here, as expected, we have the param being 1, and it's saved as 1 to the database. And if we look at our list of users, we can see who is and isn't an admin. And for some of them, you'll see when we didn't have the checkbox, there was nothing there. So we can even destroy some of these users just to clean things up a little bit. We don't need all of them. We actually don't even need these guys right now. So there we go. We just have the 1, the original. And something interesting is we don't really want to have a thing show up here. We don't want to have a checkbox show up here because if the checkbox is there, then anybody can log in as admin, right? And we also don't actually want to have it here, because if we do, somebody can sign up as admin, even though they shouldn't be. So what we're looking for is to have this be actually hidden, and we only want someone to be able to add a new admin or actually update an admin if they themselves are an admin. So we only want to show this in the condition that the current user is an admin. And we're not going to go into a lot of that here, but essentially that's how you would build it in Rails if you are doing a more detailed exploration of Rails and Rails development. You would have some access control around that, where you do if user.role equals admin and similar things, and it can get pretty complicated. But the whole idea is that you don't just show that checkbox without special permissions being involved. And so what we are back to now is we just have this form. But here's an attack. Here's an attack that we aren't protecting against. So once in, and then put that in, but then we're going to get tricky. So since we can tell from our reconnaissance, remember reconnaissance, we know that this is a Rails application, and we've seen some of the patterns that indicate that. So what we're going to do is we are going to actually add a param of our own. And what's that going to look like? That's going to look like this. We know that Rails wants a 1, and this is the Rails field style. So we're going to take in a chance that this is the name of the param. So now we've modified the form on our local machine, and we're sending this request with that attached to it now. We have this field that they're not expecting on the other end, right? But we are sending it anyway. So what happened? Let's take a look. So we go over to our users controller, and we see, yes, it complains about the password being too short. So let's go back and fix that. Okay, and then let's try our trick again. So we have user admin equals 1. Well, I'm going to take that out for now, so we don't have to figure out what's going on. Seems like it's not liking my password length for some reason, but that's not what we are displaying right now, so it doesn't matter much. There we go. It's not going to check for password for the moment. And then we're going to use any length password we want now. Let's find the form. Let's add our tricky thing here. There we go. And look at that, admin true. So this is a problem, of course, and the problem arises because we allow things to come in without really sanitizing it. So what we need to do now is we need to protect against this. So let's take a look at how we're going to protect against this. So you'll see that in Rails we have this user params, and what we're going to do, very simple protection, is we are going to not allow Rails to send in a admin param from this particular form. So when we sign up, and let's do 1-1, and then we try our trick again. Then 1, we see admin is blank. And the reason for that, and we can destroy these now, the reason for that is that we are getting rejected by the Rails application, by the Rails controller. And what that means is the param comes in, but it's not permitted. So because of that, it kicks us out from the request. So it doesn't allow admin to go through. And this is a sort of somewhat silly example because Rails does such a great job by default with these kind of things, but this shows you that if you know the structure of the application, you can try to bypass a lot of stuff. You can definitely try to formulate an attack based on known vulnerabilities or just understanding how to provide input to an application beyond what is actually available through the UI. And those are important things to know about something when you're using it as a framework or a technology of choice. You need to know that other people will be familiar with it too. And if they know more about it than you, there's a chance that you're exposing yourself to attack.